The biggest Champions tournament so far and by far has just ended. And we got quite some of the best teams, including the replicas, shown here. So the warm-up challenge happened this weekend and it had 719,000 players. Such a wild number. Now, of course, not everyone in attendance necessarily played a lot. You know, some people just played their 3 or so games to get the free rewards. But of course, many others, probably hundreds of thousands, were actually trying to compete. 719,000, that is insane. I'm pretty sure that's like the highest attended Pokemon tournament ever. The winner was Joji Kaeda. I don't really know how to pronounce it. I'm very sorry, but they're a very known, really good Japanese player. And we actually featured this team on the channel before in the meta-analysis from yesterday. It is the Sun team with the Basque Legion and the Sneasler. It also got top 4 in the Alpensee Tour, being piloted by Sanvi. It is still incredible, it turns out. And you know the wildest thing about this? This paste was public. So if a opponent who was very in the know was paired against Joji here, they could literally go to their Twitter, look at their speeds, look at their spreads, look at everything and go, okay, I know what to do because I've seen this exact team of yours already online. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they could know for sure that he didn't change anything, but still, just the fact that that info was out there at the highest level, people knew, and he still won. That is crazy. Now, second place is also a very known player. We have Michael Kelsch. So they were playing a Floette, Sneasler, Aerodactyl, Garchomp, Rotom, Incineroar team. So just basically Floette balance with the Aerodactyl we've been speaking about. Also, interestingly, Soft Sand and Garchomp. So doing a bunch of extra ground damage right here. And you can see the spreads here as well. So you can see Floette extremely bulky, just max HP. You can see the Sneasler, very, very fast. Aerodactyl, basically max. And also, interestingly, Garchomp is max despite having Tailwind. So there were probably a bunch of lines Michael was doing without the Aerodactyl, where the Garchomp still had to be pretty fast because it's jolly right here. And then we have the Scarf Rotom and the Incin. The Incin just max HP with a lot of defense investment. I'm going to guess that this is calced to live a close combat from a Sneasler reliably, even though the Intimidate was ignored by Whiteherb. I'm guessing that's the spread. Third place, we know the player, but we don't know the team. But the fourth place, we actually know the team. And this is very, very interesting. Remember in the meta-analysis video when I mentioned, hey, there's some pro players playing with Scizor? Well, it turns out, yes, they are. We have a Mega Scizor right here in fourth place. The rest of the team, of course, is a bit more normal. It is a Floette balance team. And I'm guessing Scizor basically fixes maybe the mirror. You can basically nuke other Floettes. I am wondering how good this is into stuff like Perish, maybe. You have a Sinistcha that can go out of the Perish, but is that enough? It's very interesting. But yeah, in fourth place, over a 700,000 player event, there is a Scizor. Next, fifth place, we have Kaito, a Sand team. So Tyranitar, Rotom, Sinistcha, Sneasler, Garchomp, Corviknight. Very, very good placement. You can notice there's a lot of Japanese players who went really, really ham here because like 6th place, 7th place, 8th place, and so forth. Taiki right here, playing with Mega Blastoise, Choice Scarf, Vanillux. What is this? I wish we saw more of this team. There's also a Mimikyu here. Blastoise, Vanillux, Mimikyu. This is crazy. I want this team. I want this team so bad. I love Mimikyu. Then we have Iruto right here. More of a balancey team. You know, we have an Incin, we have a Palafin, Garchomp, so Double Dragon, and a Gengar. So I'm guessing it has like a Rain Core in the form of Pelipper, Dragonite, Palafin. But then since it's a Palafin, it can also work outside of Rain, which is not the case if you're running something like Swift Swim Basque Legion. Yuta was playing Charizard. This looks very similar to the Suika team from above, but it does have a Mega Aerodactyl as well and a Scarf Garchomp, so still some changes in the sets. Then we have Odie right here playing Tyranitar with Kommo-o and Gengar. Again, the case for Kommo-o in the first meta-analysis we did, it is still coming up a fair bit. Kingambit, Sinistcha, Incin. I'm wondering if we're going to be able to see some more rental codes though. So, ooh, here we don't even get to see items. That's too bad. Naoyaki. Okay, here we also don't get to see items. So some of these players are probably still hiding some of their spice because they want to enter some other very important events. The Japanese circuit does qualify differently for Worlds than others, and so maybe it's more important for them. Here we have, whoa! We have Davide Leone with Politoed, Toxicroak, Kommo-o Gengar. Now, Toxicroak, I know this was a thing from way before I was playing, but the fact that that is still holding up is really, really crazy. Again, wish we had a rental for this one. Then we have Kota here with Garchomp, Mamoswine, Charizard. We have just a Mega Lopunny. That's all we get to see. Everything else is secret. Shuji here with a pretty normal team. Floette Balance with Mousehold, Aerodactyl. Discord still very much alive and well. Basculegion as well here. With a Dragonite. Oh, is that a Silk Scarf? So this might be a Dragonite that tries to extreme speed a bunch. Is going to be my guess. And then with a Black Glasses Kingambit. Hiroto right here is playing a more normal Rain team. Pelipper, Basculegion, Arch, Instant Gengar, and Kangaskhan. This is actually one of the first Kangaskhan's placing well, I think, in a while. The other one was Sempra in that pretty big tour, but beyond that, we haven't really seen Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan stonks have been going down. Taichi right here playing a Floette Balance. Cardo here, they are playing a Frostlass team, Balancey beyond that. So Frostlass Balance, but not a usual one, not a Kingambit with a Firewater Grass Core with Sneasler that we've been getting used to. Interestingly, we do have a Clefable here that is probably able to follow me, the dark moves that Frostlass is pretty scared of. And we have Akatsuki playing with Delphox, Mamoswine, Basque, Floette. This is very offensive. Whoa, not a single support in sight. Next up, we have a Gengar, Typhlosion, Sableye. Okay, Sableye, that's interesting. With Basque, Hydreigon, Kingambit. Again, very offensive. You are not going to necessarily play the fastest game. I don't instantly see a Whimsicott offense type deal. Hydreigon could set Tailwind, however. But it doesn't seem to have supports beyond the Sableye. Now, one thing I do have to say is if you look at these EVs, since they're yellow, they're not maxed out. So this person actually placed very high despite not utilizing every EV. Because if you look at Liz's Typhlosion, for example, it's 32, 32, and a 1 in HP. That could have been a 2 in HP. So they were literally probably using Mons from Scarlet and Violet or whatever, and didn't finalize the EVs inside Champions, and still made it. That's how you can see that EVs can kind of be, overrated. Missing 1 point or something is not the end of the world. You can also see that in the fact, actually, that a lot of these EVs were based on vibes, because they were max, 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 and max, max. This is very much vibes-based team building. You're like, okay, I need this thing to be fast and hit hard. Does it live a certain spread? Whatever. And that is fine. Early on in metas, a lot of teams are going to be like this. This is also why when a lot of people are asking me, oh, I just saw a tournament ended and this certain team looks very good, I want to play it, but I don't have the spreads. It's not that important right now, early format, that you don't have the spreads. You could just use vibes-based spreads on 80% of mons, just max, fuck it, and probably be fine enough. Now, of course, if you get the spreads from the original team creator, awesome, even better. If you don't, not the end of the world. You can see this person still placed very high, was using, except for the Sableye, I guess, just max, 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 max everywhere, and still did well. Now, one thing I love looking at is also stats like this, usage stats. So the most used Pokemon was actually Dragonite. I'm guessing that's because, again, you have over 700,000 people entering. A bunch of the people who entered probably just entered for, getting their free rewards. And so what do they use? They use the Pokemon that they got for free at the start of the game. Everyone got a Dragonite. So if they need a Mega and they have 0 VP, they have 0 anything, this is just their first time trying competitive Pokemon out, they're gonna put Dragonite on their team. That's why this result, Dragonite being at #1 usage, shouldn't be taken at face value. You shouldn't think oh, so we're in a Dragonite meta. No, it's more so that everyone has a Dragonite. But we can definitely look at the other usage stats. So we can definitely see Garchomp being second place. Garchomp has been pretty popular. We covered it in the first meta-analysis. Garchomp stonks were going up. People love using this against stuff like Sun. Having the Rock Slide on there, resisting Heat Wave, all of that is very, very useful. Then in third place, we have Incineroar. It's actually wild that it's not in first place, honestly. But the reason is that there's a bunch of teams that aren't necessarily trying to do the fake out stuff, but almost every team seemingly seems to run a Garchomp. Not almost, but maybe 60% of teams was probably running Garchomp, and that's why it's so high. Then Charizard. So probably Charizard is the most common Mega, except for the Dragonite that we're not really counting, which is interesting. And then Wims. I mean, I guess Wims is the most common Charizard partner, so I get it, but also that's interesting, beating stuff like Gengar and stuff. Gengar, Tyranitar. Again, weather is everywhere. And you know what's interesting when we look at this list? No Floette in sight. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that it's not a Floette meta. meta. What it more so means, in my opinion, is that a lot of people don't have Floette. Legend CA might have been a popular game, but a bunch of people never finished it, and another bunch of people never bought it. So since Floette isn't in the game, of course, it's not going to be in the highest usage because a bunch of people just don't have it, and they were like, fuck it, I'm gonna play without it. I'm gonna build a team that doesn't need it. You know, my Charizard team doesn't need it. My Perish Gengar team doesn't need it. It can be reflected in the usage stats. A bunch of people just don't have her. Sneasler, Kingambit, of course. 10th place Sylveon is very interesting, though. Sylveon, it's not a bad Pokemon. It has seen some success. You know, Fairy is a very strong type. Hyper Voice, Pixelate type stuff is very strong, but it's not a top tier mon either. It is funny that it gets boosted by Floette's Fairy aura. That's funny. Beyond that, I don't know. I'm guessing a lot of people just love Sylveon, which is not that surprising, but it's still surprising to see it in like this competitive kind of thing where people were like, nah, I love Sylveon, I'm just playing it. Okay, respect. And then we have Arch, Cini, Pelipper. Interesting how Arch is higher than Pelipper, because I would think that now that Body Press is gone, people wouldn't be playing Arch without Peli that much anymore, and people can definitely play Peli without Arch. You know, they can play Peli Dragonite, they can play Peli Basque, they can play Peli Palafin. And so the fact that Arch is higher than Peli, kind of interesting. And we have Gyarados, okay, solid Intimidator. A Azumarill. Huh. Don't get me wrong, Huge Power is a very, very good ability. But is it better than Basculegion? I don't think so. But okay. Is this like a nostalgia thing where so many people just in love with Azumarill? Like it's a cool Pokemon. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Corviknight, Basque, Froslass, Venusaur, Gardevoir, Rotom Wash, pretty high. Hydreigon, Arcanine, Aggron. I know it's good against Floette. Don't get me wrong. Lucario, Steelix, Palafin, Drampa, Excadrill, Meganium. I would never have guessed that a Drizzleless Drampa was going to be higher than an Excadrill or Meganium. That is crazy. That is really crazy. Honestly, out of all the stats, this is the one, okay, together with Steelix, I guess, but this is the one I don't understand. Drampa is cool. Drampa has solid bulk, but I am definitely not seeing it more than Excadrill and Meganium. We don't see any win rate usage stats or something like that. That's something that you can sometimes see on things like this, but I guess it's not really a public event, so we don't have those kinds of stats. It's cool that we got a couple replicas at least. Hope you found this interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.